Recently, all across the globe, we've been seeing a very clear-cut divide between roller coasters with high levels of theming and roller coasters where it's safe to say they didn't try very hard. So is theming really all that important? And if you just said to yourself, yeah, it actually is, why is that? And why might not you agree with some others out there who simply don't care?
We don't care.
Or even prefer the simplicity of a coaster that purely focuses on its raw layout to do all of the talking? And on top of that, is this divide between themed and unthemed coasters really that clear as we first thought? As we're also beginning to see the introduction of much more stylized roller coasters popping up left, right and center. As well as these very captivating questions, we'll also be talking all about the future of themed coasters and, well, if they have a future at all. So I'll stop wasting your time and let's dive headfirst into the controversial world of roller coaster theming. Hello there, viewer. It's safe to say that with the theme park season well and truly being over here in the UK, I haven't been up to much. So what's better to do than to distract ourselves from the existential passing of time by talking all about the absolutely colossal topic that is roller coaster theming, and where else to start than to work out what actually classes as a theme. Okay, so this may sound a little bit of a stupid question at first, but I'm seriously starting to question the idea myself, because okay, sure, this is quite obviously not a themed coaster. I mean, it's on a car park, and unless it's themed to the M25, then it's definitely not themed. Whereas on the complete opposite side of things, this is 100% a themed coaster. It's got a hell of a lot of scenery and props and effects and a story. It's got a whole surrounding area that complements the theme itself, and yeah, there's no doubt about it, this is a theme. So where does this whole new wave of stylized coasters come into the two categories, and are stylized coasters actually something new? The reason I say that is because although roller coasters like Icon at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, Sik at Flamingoland, and of course Hyperia at Thorpe Park are all relatively new and also more stylized, what about in places such as the USA? Because it seems like having a roller coaster without any specific scenery, but perhaps a vague concept of a theme with a coherent brand, colour scheme, station, and even the trains themselves have been pretty common over there since the dawn of roller coasters pretty much, and I'd say are definitely on the way to being classed as a themed coaster. But let me burst your bubble. They're not. In fact, I'm going to come out and say that a stylized coaster is definitely not a themed coaster and still pretty far from it, as we all know that the word stylized is just used as a way for parks to make their coasters sound slightly fancier without having to spend a little bit of extra money to get the full theme. This doesn't have to be seen as a bad thing though. After all, these roller coasters still look the part, and I can appreciate them for what they are and what they set out to do. But let me ask you this, if they were actually given a theme, would that improve the experience for you? I'm gonna have to say that it definitely would, at least to make them even more memorable and iconic than beforehand, because coming out of an immersive experience definitely seems to last longer with me than just exiting a pretty generic ride. I mean, let's take the amazing themed roller coaster Wickerman at Alton Towers, where you're taken through a story of basically getting sacrificed, in which the story is told through the scenery, the pre-show, the musics, effects, and even the smells. And then if you had to compare that to the 27th Batman the Ride coaster you were just on, one of them would definitely feel like a better all-round experience. But then if you compare Wickerman to an incredible ride on something like Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point, then it becomes a lot more difficult to compare the two, and Steel Vengeance basically has next to no theme at all.
I'm better. I am better.
So surely that means that the roller coaster layout actually gives the overall rating of that coaster a much higher score than what the theming could do, so maybe that means theming isn't all that important after all, as if a theme park only has to build a good coaster with no theming like Steve or Hyperia and still get a complete fan favourite, then maybe that's all they need to do. Well, I guess it would come down to target audience and what the park is trying to achieve, as well as it completely depending on who you ask, which I know is a bit of a cop-out of an answer, but also realistically the only correct one, because there are going to be people who care way more about that immersive experience where they take every aspect into account for their opinion that isn't solely just the coaster itself, and then there are going to be the thrill-focused fans that respect the coaster for what it is way more than any themed experience could do, which honestly comes down to the question that has been asked quite a lot recently across the community of if you're a roller coaster enthusiast or a theme park enthusiast, because although they may be similar, maybe one of those suits you more than the other. Okay, so I'm not going to lie to you guys, but I feel like I've actually asked more questions than I've answered in this video, so yeah, I guess that's pretty awkward, but I think there is a good reason for that, and that's just because there really can't be much of a concrete answer on something so personal to every single enthusiast, and I don't want to say anything that'll piss those guys off, they're pretty scary. But it is safe to say, however, that talking all about the overcomplicated world of roller coaster theming seems to feel pretty controversial, and for not much gain, So that's my cue to put a pin in this for the time being. But what about you? Would you say that you're more of a roller coaster or a theme park enthusiast? Do you believe that theming can elevate a coaster to all new heights, or do you just not really care? Let me know all of your awesome opinions in the comments below, but other than that, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.